Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm the Reverend William Levwood, affectionately known as Rev Lev. I'm the minister here at Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. My pronouns are he and him. As we begin our service, if you're in person, I invite you to silence your phone, and whether you're online or in person, to take a deep breath as we center ourselves for worship. We open and welcome to the ancestral people of this land, acknowledging that our church, like all of Burke, rests on the unceded territory of the Manahoac people of the Great Sioux Nation. We seek healing and the realization of justice with the people of this land who live on in their descendants, the present-day members of the Monacan Indian Nation, the Patawomic Indian Tribe of Virginia, and the Piscataway Indian Nation. We honor the ancestors as we move toward healing so that all together shall one day know full justice. Welcome to Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. This congregation is a welcoming and inclusive spiritual home where we inspire each other to live our values. Together we care in community, grow in spirit, and act for justice. I hope you have a name tag or have put your name on your Zoom name tag. If you need help with either of those, let us know in the chat or raise your hand and an usher will help you. Today's service, I want to let you know, is a very special service created in collaboration by myself, your staff, and AUUC's Pagan group, Sacred Wheel, to honor Yule and the Winter Solstice with its many diverse traditions from people and places around the world. Next Sunday, we'll have 2 Christmas Eve services. Our regular morning service at 10 a.m. will focus on secular Christmas traditions, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and Frosty the Snowman. And then we'll have a special Christmas Eve service at 4 p.m. That service will feature Christmas carols about Jesus' birth and about peace on earth, closing with our traditional candle lighting after the sun has set and the dark, silent night of Christmas Eve has descended upon us. Oh, and New Year's Eve is also on a Sunday this year, so please join us for a special Janus, am I pronouncing that right? Janus service of letting go of what we need to let go of to prepare for the new year. But back to today's special service celebrating Yule and the many diverse ways of celebrating the winter solstice. Whether you're a longtime member or a newcomer or something in between, we encourage you to stay for our social hour immediately after this service. We're so delighted that you decided to join us today.
Our chalice lighting is The Charge of the Sun God by Dorothy Morrison. I am the light that bursts through the darkness and the smile on the young child's face. I am the warmth that melts the winter chill and the sparks that dance from the old fireplace. I am the smell of oranges and apples and the scent of cinnamon, nutmeg, and clove. I am the holly, the ivy, the mistletoe ball, and the jocularity of the great god Jove. I am found in the twinkling of an aged eye and in the hope of children everywhere. Yes, joy and love and warmth am I. Where kindness abounds, I too am there. I am your brother, your father, the wise one, and warm you gently in the light of my love. I lighten your worries, bring good health and speed growth by shedding my rays down from above. But remember, my children, be grateful for my brother, the darkness and winter's deep chill, for without them, there would be little reason for this holiday season of peace and goodwill.
So I want to draw your attention to our little craftivity area over there. So with the charge of the sun god, as is thinking, light and dark. So light and dark, that's our focus. So I want you all to think about how, if you were to draw light and dark, how would you do that? So over at our Craftivity Center, we have white construction paper and black construction paper. We have white chalk and black chalk, as well as black markers. I would like to just caution everyone with our black chalk. When we opened them this morning, they leave a lot of residue. So, just beware if anyone's going out to lunch afterward, if you've been touching your face, yeah, use the markers. So, remember that the light can be the warmth of a smile or the taste of sweetness, and the dark could be, the dark sky in the evening, black velvet. There's a host of ways that we can represent light and darkness. So I'm going to give you all a little bit of time to come over to our Craftivity Center and pick up what you would like to represent light and darkness. And keep in mind, we would love to have some of these to share for our New Year's Eve service. So if you don't mind dropping it with me, that would be fabulous.
We're now going to create sacred space. We're going to cast a circle. We're going to place a hand on our hearts and stretch out to everyone else here and say, heart to hand, I cast the circle. So heart to hand, I cast the circle.
Spirits of the East, we conjure you. Come into this circle and stay till we're through. Whirl and twirl till the magic has ceased. Hail and well met to all blessed be.
Hail and well met to all blessed be.
We conjure you now, O spirits of fire, spirits of sun, of love and desire. Illuminate our magic until it has ceased. Hail and well met to all, blessed be.
Hail and well met to all, blessed be.
O wintry spirits of the cold winter chill, of ice and of sleet and of snow on the hills, flow with us now till the magic has ceased. Hail and well met to all, blessed be. Hail and well met to all, blessed be.
O spirits of earth, we arouse you from sleep, for you hold our roots in your soul warm and deep. Bring our circle your richness till the magic has ceased. Hail and well met to all, blessed be.
Hail and well met to all, blessed be.
Spirit of life, we ask you to birth love between all peoples on the earth. Bring understanding for all to see. Hail and well met, blessed be.
Hail and well met,
blessed be.
Ancient of days, Star Mother, we call to you, whose crown is the moon, whose mantle the stars, whose body the sacred earth and all that dwell within it. We ask you to come to us as we celebrate Yule.
And Sam, if you would do us the honor of lighting the God and Goddess candles, as we now invite the God. Oak King and Holly King, two halves of the whole, light and dark, we call to you, rising and setting sun, daylight and night's rest, growth and harvest, whose glory is the sun and the wild things of the forest. We ask you to come to us now as we celebrate our Yule.
The Shortest Day, Celebrating the Winter Solstice by Wendy Pfeffer, illustrated by Jessie Reich. In late autumn, in the northern part of the world, squirrels hide nuts, foxes grow thick fur coats, and flocks of birds fly to warmer places.
The sun rises later each morning and sets earlier each evening. Each day, It appears lower in the southern sky. As the sun gets lower and lower, the north gets less and less daylight. The air grows colder. Chickadees fluff their feathers to keep warm. Woodchucks hibernate in their burrows, and white-tailed deer nuzzle through the snow to find the last blades of grass.
On short winter days, children bundle in warm clothes and walk through a frosty white world, dragging long shadows behind them.
On long winter nights, families eat dinner while it's dark outside. Children wonder when the days will get long again so they can play outside after dinner like they did in summer.
In the north, on or around December 21st, the sun reaches its lowest point on the horizon, making that day the shortest day of the year. Like all days, December 21st has 24 hours, but it's called the shortest day because it has the fewest hours of daylight.
The shortest day, called the Winter Solstice, is the beginning of winter. And in some places, winter means cold, nose-nipping weather. The earth tilts as it moves around the sun, and the north gets less heat and light than the southern part.
Long ago, people didn't understand how the earth tilts and moves around the sun. They didn't understand why each day had less sunshine than the day before.
Over the years, the people noticed that after short days, the days got gradually longer. Joyous people bathed in the sun's warmth and light. They celebrated their harvests.
About 5,000 years ago, people who studied the sky noticed that day after day, the sun set in different places on the western horizon. They discovered that when the sun set farthest south, that was the shortest day. These early astronomers planned to mark the shortest day. Then each year, people would know when the days would start getting longer again.
On the day when the sun reached its southernmost point on the horizon, the astronomers carried out their plan. Workers stacked stones to frame the setting sun. They made a special opening, like a keyhole or the eye of a needle. When the setting sun's rays beamed through the opening, people knew the shortest day was over. Days gradually got longer for the next 6 months. When the sun appeared farthest to the north, its rays shone through another keyhole. People then knew it was the longest day of the year, the first day of summer.
In China, over 3,000 years ago, astronomers measured shadows to determine the shortest day. The longest shadows appeared on the shortest day because the sun was at its lowest point in the sky. They knew that as the sun appeared higher in the sky, the shadows would get shorter and the days would get longer.
Over 2,000 years ago, Romans celebrated the shortest day with festivals and merrymaking. They gave evergreen branches to friends as a sign of good luck. Evergreen wreaths decorated their doors. Since these plants stayed green when others turned brown, they reminded the Romans of the coming spring.
Mistletoe and holly hung in their homes because plants that survived the harsh winter were symbols of life. Many people believed these plants would bring strength to their families.
About 1,000 years ago, Europeans celebrated the winter solstice. Druid priests of England and Ireland decorated oak trees with golden apples and candles to represent harvest and light.
In Sweden, a festival of light celebrated the return of longer days. On St. Lucia's Day, girls wore crowns of evergreens and candles to rekindle the sun's fire as they delivered warm buns to family and friends. Boys went from door to door, singing to the neighbors for a few coins.
Around the same time in history, the Incas of Peru marked the shortest day with a festival in honor of the sun. At dawn, when the sun first appeared, shouts of happiness rang out. Then the Incas used a shiny surface to reflect the sun's rays onto fluffy, dry cotton. The sun heated the cotton and made it burst into flame. They carried this fire to their temples and kept it burning on the altars all year because it came from one of their gods, the sun.
Today, people still celebrate at the beginning of winter by decorating their houses, lighting the darkness, gathering together, and exchanging gifts. They no longer worry that the sun will disappear forever. People know that days get colder when their part of the earth tilts away from the sun. They know that days get shorter when the sun appears low in the sky. People celebrate the shortest day because longer days follow. Flocks of birds will return, seedling oak trees will sprout, and children can play outside after dinner. For more than 5,000 years, people have welcomed the winter solstice because it's a new beginning. So in our area over here, our craftivity area, I just want to remind you all that the activities we have over here are for you to do at any point during this service. So I want to encourage children and adults to participate at any point, just as our young ones over here decided to get up and start, looking around. So I want to encourage everyone to do that. But our other activity that I'd like all of you to think about and participate in, it involves our journals. You remember our journals from previously. We also have some little holiday notepads that you're welcome to use as well, and some winter season stickers. But I'd like you to think of, what is your winter mantra, in a sense? Like what is it that you think about? Sometimes the days, actually I've felt like it's been a polar night recently. I mean, it feels like we're living in Alaska and it is dark, 5 o'clock, dark. So sometimes there's things that, I think about too, that encourage me, and that we are getting to that point where it is the shortest day. And then the light returns, and each day we're closer to spring. But what helps you get through the winter and the holidays? Do you light candles? Do you put up electric lights? I like to do that in my home. Do you hang wreaths and evergreens? Is there something special you do with your family? Do you gather around the fireplace? So we're going to just take a couple of minutes and ask you to get your journal or, write down your thoughts. And if you'd be willing to share with us in a few minutes some of those special traditions that you have and hold in your family and in your heart, that would be wonderful. You're also welcome to draw a picture that symbolizes your winter traditions, anything that expresses your and your home's unique creativity in the winter process would be awesome.
So we heard in our story about the many ways the winter solstice has been honored in different times, places, and cultures all around the world. These traditions have been rooted in particular places and the practices of particular peoples. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe that truth is not found only in one place or one people or one tradition, and so we draw from many sources, many traditions that come from diverse people and places, sources sacred, secular, and scientific. Our proposed new way of naming these sources, which is also where we get this month's theme of mystery, emphasizes that when we draw from diverse sources, we respect the histories, contexts, and cultures in which these understandings were created and are currently practiced. Now, important teaching of the winter solstice is to pay attention to where you live. The earth is different from place to place and season to season. Almost all over the earth, the length of day and night varies throughout the year, but this variation is more dramatic. For example, as Ashley mentioned, in Alaska, or wherever people live closer to the North or the South Pole. And it's almost imperceptible near the equator. If you're actually on the equator, there's no changing of the length of the day and the night throughout the year. So our story told about the different ways, different cultures, and different places around the world have honored the winter solstice throughout human history. The longer nights and shorter days are just one of the things that vary from place to place. When I lived in Tallahassee, Florida, just a few years ago, I found the changing seasons confusing. I've lived in a lot of places in my life, but I grew up in places where there are 4 clear seasons: rain and flowers in the spring, heat and humidity in the summer, leaves changing color and falling in the autumn, and snow covering the ground for months in the winter in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where I've spent my childhood. This isn't what the seasons are like in Tallahassee. There's no snow. It does tend to get colder in the winter, but it's not at all uncommon to have a week of 80-degree weather in January. But even though the leaves are not falling from the trees, are not changing color throughout the fall and into the winter, the days do get shorter. The trees don't become bare, but the light is becoming less and less. So I'm the kind of person who loves the outdoors and who wants to live in harmony with nature. So when I moved to Tallahassee, I really wanted to understand that different climate and the different seasons and what they had to teach me about how to live in harmony with that particular place. And I also wanted to understand the cultural heritage of the place too, to understand who lived there and who had lived there and how their history and culture had formed that place. This attention to place is a feature of most indigenous cultures, sometimes referred to as pagan cultures. It's a feature of those cultures throughout history, including today. And it's been less true of religious traditions who've claimed to have a universal message that everyone should adopt and adhere to. Religions like Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam claim to have universal truths to share with all of humanity, truths that don't vary from place to place or season to season. Now, these traditions have spread beyond the places where they originated, flourishing in climates and cultures much different from the climates and cultures they were birthed from. So maybe their spread to diverse places shows that there is some truth to their claim to have universal teachings to offer. But on the other hand, maybe it's possible, I think, that the spread of a universal ethic that is disconnected from Earth, from the particular places and climates of those places, has contributed to and continues to fuel our climate crisis. Does that make sense? That if we're focused on universal truths and not focused on the particular teachings and practices of our place, as indigenous and pagan traditions draw us to, as we're inviting ourselves to be focused on with the changing of the light as we celebrate winter solstice, that divorces us from the earth. So perhaps reclaiming indigenous traditions that honor earth and put forth context-specific, place-based practices sensitive to the local climate and culture is an important part of how we can begin to change our ways and lessen the climate catastrophe of global warming. Now, the spread of these more universalistic traditions has happened in a variety of ways, both violent and peaceful. Islam, for example, spread throughout the Indian subcontinent primarily through Sufis who would set up hostels or hotels where travelers could stay. Everyone was welcome at these hostels, something that wasn't true in the predominant Hindu culture of the time. Many a lower caste Hindu converted to Islam after experiencing the welcome and hospitality shown to them by Sufi Muslims at a Sufi hostel. Islam also spread through military conquest, as did Christianity. When we talk about the colonial conquest of the globe by Christian Europe, we often forget that it began inside of Europe, that the first imperial conquest and the first imposition of Christianity on indigenous people was that of the Holy Roman Empire, as it conquered the diverse people and cultures in the diverse climates of Northern Europe. When this happened, the indigenous traditions, the pagan traditions of Europe, were usually outlawed, often violently suppressed. Now, sometimes the pagan practices were co-opted by Christianity, meaning Christianity adopted and reinterpreted pagan practices, often in ways that didn't respect the pagan traditions those practices were rooted in. Sometimes it was Christianity that co-opted, or we might say stole, pagan traditions in Northern Europe and later on through colonialism throughout the world, folding them into Christianity. But other times, indigenous traditions have been the ones to incorporate their practices into an imposed imperial or colonial religion. The second strategy of hiding indigenous traditions within an imposed religion is how many indigenous traditions have managed to survive into the present day. One example of this is how enslaved Africans in places like Brazil and Cuba disguised the Orishas, native to their indigenous West African traditions, as Catholic saints. In this way, they have been able to keep alive their indigenous West African religious life in the face of oppression. This is just one example of a way that many oppressed traditions have found to go underground in order to survive. We could say that they've used the shelter of darkness to hide their traditions until they could be brought back out into the light, which is happening. Today, in many places around the world, people are reclaiming their indigenous traditions. These traditions kept alive in the shelter of darkness are returning with the returning of the light. In a small way, that's what we're doing, part of what we're doing with this Yule and Winter Solstice service, reclaiming our connection to Earth and to some ancestral ways of honoring the diverse places, people, and cultures of the Earth and how they honor the Earth and the Winter Solstice.
And while you're enjoying, if you so choose, we have another story, an adaptation of a Cherokee creation story by Ellen Jackson, the adaptation, not the original story. Many moons ago, the great sun created the plants and trees. Then he blessed them with the gift of green so that they might bring forth fruit and flowers. All was well for a time, but then the Great One withdrew his face. The winds came down from the mountains of the north, and gray clouds jostled above the earth. "Oh, Father, don't leave us," cried the plants. "Give us your light and warmth," cried the trees. But day by day, the great sun sank lower in the sky, and the long nights were as black as a crow's wing. Then the vines began to wither, and frost touched the grasses of the meadows. A curtain of clouds covered the heavens. "Dear Father, we will die without you," wailed the trees and plants. "Come back, come back." "He's coming," whispered the north wind. "There's a touch of gold on the mountaintops." "He's coming," whispered the clouds. "His face has turned in the sky." The plants and trees were full of joy at the good news. Eager to greet their dear father, they decided to stay awake every night and watch for his return. Sumac, sassafras, and purple aster put forth brilliant colors to welcome the great sun, but after a night of watching, they fell asleep. The dogwoods and alders watched for 2 nights, but soon their boughs grew heavy, and they, too, fell asleep. The maples and poplars whispered to each other, "We will not give in to sleep." But soon they were slumbering under the cold stars like the others. When the great sun came from his home on the dawn of the 7th day, the skies were clear. He looked down on the forests and meadows below. The only plants and trees still awake to greet him were the pine, the fir, the spruce, the holly, and the laurel. "For your faithfulness, I will give you the gift of green forever," said the great sun to the plants and trees who welcomed him. "The others will drop their leaves or sleep through the winter, but you will remain awake. Your color will be a promise of my return to all who see you." And then he sent a stream of light across the sleeping earth.
So we call those trees that don't drop their leaves in the fall, but rather remain green throughout the year, evergreen. Evergreens can be a potent symbol for what remains constant even as other things change over time. I spoke earlier about religious traditions that have spread across the globe with a universal message, and those that have remained more rooted in a specific place and culture. It makes me wonder if love is what is universal, is what is evergreen, remaining constant even as other things change over time and from place to place. Perhaps this is why we put love at the center of our Unitarian Universalist tradition. Perhaps love is the constant that we can come back to, that holds us together even as the world around us changes. Love is evergreen. I believe that. I believe that love is evergreen, and also that the expression of love, like the many different cultures in the world, is different in different moments, in different contexts, in different cultures, that love adapts to different places and times and their particular features and needs. That sometimes love calls us to focus on generously sharing our loving, attentive presence with each other. And that at other times it's more important that we generously share our resources with each other, sharing our food or clothing or money with others, as we can do with our collection for immigrants at this time of year. Then still at other times, love calls us to build accessible and inclusive communities where everyone can thrive and flourish with dignity. But then there are times when love reminds us that to do that, we need to focus on breaking down oppressive systemic structures like racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia. Has anybody noticed that these are from our new UU values, these actions of love that I'm reminding us of? Sometimes love reminds us that dismantling oppression and building accessible and inclusive communities requires us to remain open to learning from each other. Open to learning from each other by embracing our commonalities and our differences with curiosity and respect. And still other times, love puts the focus on protecting Earth and all beings from exploitation. Just as the seasons change, just as the days get gradually shorter and then the days get gradually longer again, starting on the winter solstice, just as climates are different in different places and cultural traditions are different in different places, the expression of love while Evergreen changes from place to place, from season to season, and from moment to moment. Sometimes we know just what love calls us to in each moment, and other times we struggle to love each other. Our new UU values with love at the center also call us to be accountable to each other through the work of living our values through the spiritual discipline that is love. To remain committed to learning what love is calling forth in each moment, in each season, in each place. Earth teaches us this by giving us more wakeful light in the summer and more restful darkness in the winter, by showing us that humans can thrive in mountains and in forests, along coastlines and in deserts and grasslands and beside rivers, by showing us that human cultures have found diverse ways of thriving in these diverse places. Earth teaches us that love is both evergreen, constant and unchanging, and the expression of love is diverse, changing with the context and culture of the specific time and the specific place we find ourselves in. So may we embody love in all its many expressions. May we rest in the gentle darkness of the long night of the solstice, and may we rejoice in the returning of light and the lengthening of days. May it be so, and may we be among those who make it so. Blessed be.
Ancient of days, whose crown is the moon, whose body is the sacred earth and all that dwell within it, we thank you for celebrating our Yule with us. Go if you must, stay if you will. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Oak King and Holly King, two halves of the whole, light and dark, we thank you for celebrating Yule with us. Go if you must, stay if you will. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Spirits of air, we asked for you to help with our circle, but now we are through. We thank you now, for our magic has ceased. We thank you, go forth, if you must, blessed be.
Blessed be.
We thank you now, O spirits of fire, spirits of sun, of love and desire. You warmed our magic, but now it has ceased. We thank you, go forth if you must, blessed be.
Blessed be.
O watery spirits of the cold winter chill, of ice and of sleet and of snow on the hills, we thank you now, for our magic has ceased. We thank you. Go forth if you must. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
O spirits of earth, we ask you to keep our thanks as you return now to sleep. Our circle was rich, but our magic has ceased. We thank you. Go forth if you must. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Spirit of life, we ask you to birth love between all the peoples on earth. Our work here is done. Our magic has ceased. We thank you. Go forth if you must. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Please rise now, in body or in spirit, and we'll conclude as we always do, joining in reciting our community blessing with these words of David Bumbaugh. This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences and beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause now in silent witness to that unity.
May we be blessed in community, bountiful in feast, and rich in the earth's gifts as we honor the sacred darkness and welcome the return of the light. And as we always like to end our pagan rituals, we must open the circle with the words, merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. Woo!